So today we're going to work on doing operations with polynomials, addition, subtraction, and multiplication. We'll start with addition and subtraction. These are just simplifying expressions by combining like terms. The only main thing you need to remember is if it's subtraction, you're going to have to distribute the negative. So let's look at a problem. 4 plus n squared minus 2n to the third minus 4 minus n squared minus 3n cubed. Now, this one is a subtraction problem, so we're going to have to remember to take this negative here and distribute it to every single term inside those parentheses. When you do that, you can rewrite it without the parentheses. It makes it a little bit easier to find your like terms that way. We have 4 plus n squared minus 2n to the third minus 4 plus n squared, since we're minus a negative, plus 3n to the third. So all of our parentheses are gone. It'll make it a lot easier to find our like terms. So I always start with the one that has the highest exponent. That way our final answer will already be in standard form. In this case, our highest exponent is to the third. So I have that negative 2n to the third plus 3n squared. Negative 2 plus 3 is 1, so we just have 1 n to the third or n to the third. Then I have my n squared plus n squared. So 1n squared plus 1n squared is 2n squared. And last we have our constants of 4 minus 4. That's 0. So our final answer is just n to the third plus 2n squared. So that's a subtraction problem. Now, addition is even easier because we don't have to worry about distributing the negative. We can just use the pieces as they are. For example, 6b to the fourth plus 6b minus b to the third plus 7b to the third minus 7b to the fourth minus 2. Now it's addition. You can rewrite it without the parentheses if you want, or you can just leave them as is. I'm going to leave them as is. We start, like the other one, looking for things that have the same exponents. My highest one is this b to the fourth. I have a 6b to the fourth plus a negative 7b to the fourth. So 6 plus negative 7 is negative 1b to the fourth, or negative b to the fourth. I'm just going to write it as negative b to the fourth. Then we have our third power. That's our next highest one. So negative 1b to the third plus 7b to the third is 6b to the third. Then we have a single b. It's the only one, so we can just copy it down as is. And then last we have this constant, that negative 2. So then there is our final answer. So that's the basics for adding and subtracting. If you want to, now would be a good time to stop and go practice those either on the worksheet or the first part of the Quizalize so that you can practice these before you start working on multiplication. When we work on multiplying polynomials, there's two methods. There's the table method. Table method works for every single polynomial. Binomials, trinomials, 4 terms, 5 terms, anything. The other method is FOIL. That only works if you have a binomial times a binomial. So let's look at the table method first because it always works. So if I want to multiply 7x plus 1 times 7x squared minus 5x minus 7. What we're going to do is set up a table where one of these goes along the top and one goes down the side. It's kind of like matrix multiplication. I usually put the longer one on the top because when I'm writing on paper that saves me space, but it doesn't really matter which you put where. So 7x squared minus 5x minus 7. You'll notice I leave a little space. That just is because when we start multiplying, things take up more space because they're bigger numbers. 7x and plus 1 down the side. So now I'm going to put in my grid so it actually looks like a table. And then it's like matrix multiplication. It's like Punnett squares in science, where you take the row times the column, and that gives you what goes in that space. So in this case, 7 times 7 is 49. X times x squared is x to the third. So that's that first box. Then we do the next one. 7x times negative 5x. That's negative 35x squared. Then we do the next one. 7x times negative 7 is negative 49x. Then we do the next one. 1 times 7x squared, that's easy, is just 7x squared. Same thing, 1 times negative 5x is negative 5x. 1 times negative 7 is negative 7. So that's all the little pieces. Now these are all being added, or if there's a subtraction or that negative, then that's a subtraction piece. What we want to do is like with the addition and subtraction. Start with the highest powers and then work our way down. So this is our only x to the third. So we get 49x to the third. Now I have 2x squareds, and one of the things you'll have to notice is that like terms usually, not always, but usually are kind of diagonal from each other. So that's a good place to look when you're working through these. So negative 35 plus 7 is negative 28x squared. Then we keep going. Here's my x's once again. They're diagonal from each other. Negative 49 minus 5 is negative 54x, and then that negative 7 is the only constant we have. So our final answer is negative 49x to the third minus 28x squared minus 54x minus 7. And that's the table method for multiplying. It works for anything. Special cases, binomial times a binomial, 4 terms times 4 terms, it will always work. So it's kind of a good fallback method if you forget other things. Now, when they're just a binomial times a binomial, we can use what's called FOIL. FOIL works really nicely. It's fast. You're going to hear it over and over in high school. But FOIL stands for first, outside, inside, last. That's where we get those letters. F-O-I-L. It's just a way to help you remember what we're doing. So only works for 2 binomials. For example, if we have 8n plus 5 times 7n minus 7. That's 2 binomials. So we're going to go through and we're going to do first, outside, inside, last. So first means you multiply the first thing times the first thing. So 8n times 7n is 56n squared. Outside means you take the 2 that are on the far outside. 8n times negative 7. So minus 56n. Inside is the 2 that are in the middle, closest to each other. So in this case, 5 times 7n, which is 35n. And then last is you take the last 2 from each binomial and multiply them. And we get negative 35. So those are the same 4 pieces you would get if you made a table with these. Now all we have to do is look and see if any of them can be combined. And usually, not always, but usually what happens is those middle 2 are the 2 that we can put together. So when we simplify it, we have 56n squared. Negative 56 plus 35 is negative 21n, and then we still have our minus 35. That is the exact same thing you would get doing the table, but a lot of people like to do this. Sometimes you get really good at it and can do it in your head a lot faster, but if you forget, table method also works. Now that we've gone through the 2 types of multiplying, you can finish the worksheet, you can finish the Quizalize, go back through and practice these skills.